The Scariest Place on Earth. Your Reflection. Scary story published by Scare Fiction. Chapter 1. Introduction. Alex Desmond stepped out of his battered old car, his breath misting in the chilly night air. The dilapidated building loomed before him, its windows boarded up and its walls coated in layers of grime. This was the place, the address he had been given in the anonymous email that had landed in his inbox earlier that day. As a paranormal investigator, Alex was used to receiving strange tips and leads, but this one had piqued his curiosity like none before. The email spoke of a cursed antique camera that supposedly had the power to capture sinister images of the supernatural. As a skeptic who prided himself on debunking such claims, Alex couldn't resist the urge to investigate. He adjusted the strap of his messenger bag and made his way towards the entrance of the abandoned building. The wooden door creaked ominously as he pushed it open, revealing a dimly lit interior cluttered with dusty relics of a bygone era. The air was heavy with the scent of mold and decay. "Hello?" Alex called out, his voice echoing through the empty space. There was no response, save for the distant sound of something stirring in the shadows. Ignoring the creeping sense of unease that prickled at the back of his neck, Alex pressed on, his footsteps echoing on the worn floorboards. As he ventured further into the building, he stumbled upon a small room tucked away in a corner, its door slightly ajar. Peering inside, he saw shelves lined with an assortment of oddities, old books, tarnished silverware, and faded paintings. But it was the object sitting on the center shelf that drew his attention: a vintage camera, its black metal casing gleaming dully in the dim light. Alex approached the camera cautiously, his heart pounding in his chest. He reached out a trembling hand and picked it up, feeling a strange energy thrumming beneath his fingertips. This was no ordinary camera, he realized, as he examined its intricately carved design and the ornate lens that seemed to gleam with an otherworldly light. Just then, a voice broke through the silence, causing Alex to startle in surprise. "Looking for something, are we?" A figure emerged from the shadows, a woman with piercing blue eyes and a mischievous grin. She introduced herself as Mrs. Blackwood, the owner of the antique shop. "I received an anonymous tip about this camera," Alex explained, holding it up for her to see. "Do you know anything about its history?" Mrs. Blackwood's smile widened, revealing a row of gleaming white teeth. "Ah, the cursed camera," she said, her voice dripping with intrigue. "Legend has it that whoever dares to use it is cursed to capture images of the supernatural." Alex raised an eyebrow skeptically. "And do you believe in such nonsense?" Mrs. Blackwood shrugged nonchalantly. "Believe it or not, young man, but there are some things in this world that defy explanation." With that cryptic remark, she turned and disappeared back into the shadows, leaving Alex alone with the camera and his thoughts. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to embark on a journey that would challenge everything he thought he knew about the paranormal. Taking a deep breath, Alex pocketed the camera and prepared to leave the antique shop behind. Little did he know, the true horrors that awaited him were only just beginning to unfold. Chapter 2. The Haunted Antique Shop. The rain fell in heavy sheets as Alex hurried down the dimly lit street, the glow of the streetlights casting eerie shadows on the pavement. He pulled his coat tighter around himself, the chill of the night air seeping through his clothes. His destination loomed ahead, an old antique shop nestled between two towering buildings, its windows dark and foreboding. As he pushed open the creaking door, a bell tinkled overhead, announcing his arrival with a haunting melody. The shop was bathed in a dim, flickering light, casting strange shapes and shadows on the walls. Dusty shelves lined the walls, each one crammed with an assortment of oddities and curiosities. Alex took a hesitant step forward, his senses tingling with a sense of unease. He had always been drawn to the supernatural, but there was something about this place that set his nerves on edge. He glanced around nervously, his eyes lingering on a particularly sinister-looking mask hanging on the wall. "Can I help you, young man?" a voice called out from the darkness. Alex turned to see a figure emerging from the shadows, a tall, thin woman with piercing blue eyes and a mane of wild, unkempt hair. She wore a long, flowing robe adorned with strange symbols and amulets, giving her the appearance of a mystical sorceress. I'm looking for something," Alex stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. "Something supernatural." The woman's eyes narrowed, as if she could sense the darkness that lurked within Alex's soul. "Ah, I see," she said cryptically. "You seek the forbidden, the otherworldly. But be warned, young man, the things you seek may be more dangerous than you realize." Alex swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew he should heed the woman's warning and turn back, but he couldn't resist the pull of the unknown. He had come too far to turn back now. "I understand," he said, his voice steady despite the fear that gnawed at his insides. "I'm willing to take the risk." The woman nodded, a knowing smile playing at the corners of her lips. "Very well," she said. "Follow me." She led Alex deeper into the shop, weaving through the maze of shelves and display cases until they reached a darkened corner obscured by shadows. There, nestled among a collection of eerie artifacts, sat the object of Alex's desire, the cursed camera. It was an ancient-looking device, its blackened metal casing tarnished with age. The lens gleamed like a malevolent eye, seemingly alive with an otherworldly energy. Alex could feel its power calling out to him, drawing him closer with an irresistible force. "Here it is," the woman said, her voice low and solemn. "The camera of shadows. Use it at your own peril, for its powers are not to be trifled with." Alex reached out a trembling hand and grasped the camera, his fingers tingling with a strange electric energy. He knew that he was taking a risk, that the camera's dark powers could consume him whole. But he also knew that he couldn't turn back now, not when he was so close to unraveling the mysteries of the supernatural. With a sense of grim determination, Alex tucked the camera into his coat pocket and turned to leave the shop. He had what he came for, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just opened a door to a world of darkness from which there would be no escape. Chapter 3: Encounter with the Camera. The old camera felt heavy in Alex's hands as he held it up, contemplating its mysterious allure. He couldn't shake the feeling of foreboding that had settled over him since his encounter with Mrs. Blackwood in the antique shop. Despite his skepticism, a nagging voice in the back of his mind urged him to explore the camera's supposed powers. With a mixture of curiosity and trepidation, Alex aimed the camera at the empty room around him and pressed the shutter button. The click of the shutter echoed in the silence, followed by the mechanical whir of the film advancing. For a moment, nothing happened, and Alex's skepticism threatened to take hold once more. But then, slowly, the image began to materialize on the photograph, taking shape in the dim light of the room. Alex's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the image developing before his eyes. It was a chilling sight, a shadowy figure lurking behind him, its features obscured by darkness, but its presence unmistakably sinister. A shiver, fear down Alex's body as he stared at the photograph in disbelief. He couldn't explain the presence of the figure in the image, nor the icy chill that seemed to permeate the air around him. Was it a trick of the light? A glitch in the camera's mechanism? Or something far more sinister? Dismissing the photograph as a mere anomaly, Alex pocketed the camera and tried to shake off the feeling of unease that lingered in the pit of his stomach. He told himself it was just his overactive imagination playing tricks on him, that there was a rational explanation for everything. But deep down, he knew that the darkness lurking in the photograph was all too real. As he made his way back to his car, Alex couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed to conceal unseen eyes, every sound sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through his veins. He tried to rationalize his fear, to convince himself that it was all in his head, but the image of the shadowy figure lingered in his mind like a persistent nightmare. Back at his apartment, Alex couldn't resist the urge to examine the photograph once more. He retrieved the camera from his bag and held up the developed image, studying it intently in the harsh light of his desk lamp. The figure seemed to loom larger now, its presence palpable even in the stillness of the room. Suddenly, a sharp knock at the door shattered the silence, causing Alex to jump in surprise. He set the photograph aside and crossed the room to answer it, his heart pounding in his chest. But when he swung open the door, there was no one there, only the empty hallway stretching out before him. A sense of unease settled over Alex as he stepped back into his apartment, locking the door behind him. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the darkness from the photograph had followed him home. And as he gazed once more at the image in his hand, he realized, with a sinking feeling, that the true horror was only just beginning to unfold. Chapter 4. Sinister Snapshots. The antique camera lay on Alex's desk, its presence casting a shadow of unease over the room. Despite the unsettling encounter with the shadowy figure in the first photograph, Alex couldn't resist the temptation to delve deeper into the camera's mysteries. He convinced himself that there must be a rational explanation for the strange images it produced, that it was all just a product of his overactive imagination. With a sense of trepidation mingled with curiosity, Alex aimed the camera at various objects around his apartment and snapped a series of photographs. He watched as each image developed before his eyes, revealing scenes that sent a chill down his soul. Gruesome scenes of violence and despair, apparitions lurking in the shadows, faces contorted in agony, each photograph more disturbing than the last. Despite his growing unease, Alex couldn't tear himself away from the camera. It was as if he had become ensnared in its grip, unable to resist the pull of its dark allure. He spent hours poring over the photographs, searching for clues that might unravel the mystery behind the camera's curse. As the days turned into weeks, Alex's obsession with the camera only grew stronger. He neglected his work, his friends, his very sanity, consumed by the need to uncover the truth. He scoured ancient texts and obscure folklore, seeking any shred of information that might shed light on the camera's origins. But the more he learned, the more elusive the truth became. Camera seemed to defy all attempts at rational explanation, its origins shrouded in mystery, and its powers beyond comprehension. It was as if it were a relic from another world, a gateway to the realm of the supernatural. Driven by desperation, Alex ventured out into the city, seeking out others who had encountered the camera's curse. He tracked down witnesses and survivors, each with their own tale of horror to tell. But no matter how many stories he heard, no matter how many clues he uncovered, the truth remained tantalizingly out of reach. As he delved deeper into the camera's dark history, Alex began to feel as if he were being watched. Shadows seemed to shift and dance at the corner of his vision. Whispers echoed in the empty spaces of his apartment. He knew he was treading on dangerous ground, playing with forces beyond his comprehension. But still, he pressed on, driven by a sense of purpose that bordered on madness. He was determined to unlock the secrets of the camera, to unravel the mystery that had consumed his life. Little did he know, the true horror lay not in the photographs it produced, but in the darkness that lurked within its very soul. Chapter 5. Paranormal Investigations. The dim light of the street lamps cast long shadows as Alex made his way through the deserted alleyways of the city. He clutched the antique camera tightly in his hand, his mind racing with thoughts of the dark mysteries it held. He needed help, someone who could lend a skeptical eye to his increasingly irrational obsession. That someone was Emily. Emily Lawson was Alex's colleague at the Paranormal Investigation Agency, known for her sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude. Despite her skepticism towards the supernatural, Alex knew that Emily was the only person he could trust to help him unravel the secrets of the cursed camera. He found her sitting at her desk, surrounded by stacks of paperwork and a perpetually steaming mug of coffee. She looked up as he approached, her expression one of mild annoyance. "What do you want, Alex?" she asked, her tone laced with sarcasm. "I need your help," Alex replied, his voice tinged with urgency. "I've come across something unusual, and I think you're the only one who can help me make sense of it." Emily arched an eyebrow skeptically. "Unusual how?" Alex hesitated, unsure of how to broach the subject. "It's a camera," he said finally, "but not just any camera. It's cursed or something. It captures images of things that shouldn't be there." Emily's expression softened slightly. Curiosity piqued despite herself. "And you want me to help you investigate?" Alex nodded, relieved that she seemed willing to entertain the idea. "Yes, I need someone to keep me grounded, to help me separate fact from fiction." Emily sighed, running a hand through her hair in frustration. "Fine, but on one condition. If this turns out to be another wild goose chase, you owe me dinner." Alex grinned in spite of himself, grateful for her begrudging agreement. Together, they set out to uncover the origins of the cursed camera, poring over old records and newspaper clippings in search of clues. It wasn't long before they stumbled upon a series of unsolved murders that seemed to be connected to the camera's dark history. As they delved deeper into the case, Alex and Emily uncovered a tangled web of intrigue and deception. They traced the camera's origins back to a reclusive artist who had used it to capture images of the supernatural, only to meet a grisly end at the hands of an unknown assailant. But the more they learned, the more questions arose. Who was behind the murders? And what did they hope to achieve by unleashing the camera's curse upon the world? As they pieced together the puzzle, Alex and Emily found themselves drawn deeper into the darkness that surrounded the cursed camera. They knew that they were treading on dangerous ground, playing with forces beyond their comprehension. But they were determined to uncover the truth. Little did they know, the true horror lay not in the images captured by the camera, but in the darkness that lurked within the human heart. Chapter 6. Escalating Hauntings. The air in Alex's apartment felt heavy with tension as he and Emily pored over the latest batch of photographs taken with the cursed camera. Each image seemed to grow more sinister than the last, capturing scenes of unimaginable horror and despair. They couldn't deny it any longer. The camera was cursed, and its malevolent influence was growing stronger with each passing day. As they studied the photographs, a sense of unease settled over them like a suffocating blanket. Shadows seemed to shift and dance at the edges of their vision. Whispers echoed in the empty spaces of the room. They knew they were in danger, that the darkness lurking within the camera's lens threatened to consume them whole. But despite their growing fear, Alex and Emily were determined to press on. They couldn't let themselves be driven mad by the camera's curse, not when there was still a chance to uncover the truth behind its origins. They had to stay strong, to resist the pull of the darkness that threatened to engulf them. As the days passed, strange occurrences began to plague Alex and Emily with increasing frequency. Objects would move of their own accord. Strange noises echoed through the apartment in the dead of night. They tried to rationalize the phenomena, to convince themselves that it was all just a product of their overactive imaginations. But deep down, they knew the truth. They were being haunted by forces beyond their comprehension. And the cursed camera was at the center of it all, its lens capturing images of their impending doom with chilling accuracy. Despite their best efforts to resist its influence, Alex and Emily found themselves slipping further and further into the grip of madness. They would wake in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat and screaming in terror, haunted by nightmares of the dark entities that lurked within the photographs. They tried to reach out for help, to warn others of the danger posed by the cursed camera. But no one would listen. They were dismissed as madmen, their warnings falling on deaf ears. It was as if the camera had cast a spell over the world, blinding people to the truth of the horrors that lurked within its depths. As the days turned into weeks, Alex and Emily found themselves struggling to maintain their sanity in the face of overwhelming darkness. They knew they were running out of time, that the camera's curse threatened to consume them whole if they didn't act fast. But even as they fought to break free from its grip, a part of them knew that the true horror lay not in the images captured by the camera, but in the darkness that lurked within their own souls. And as they stared into the abyss, they realized with a sinking feeling that they were powerless to escape its grasp. Chapter 7. Confrontation with the Past. As Alex and Emily delved deeper into the history of the cursed camera, they uncovered a web of darkness that stretched back centuries. They traced its origins to a secretive cult that worshipped a malevolent entity known only as the Shadow King. This cult had used the camera as a tool to capture images of their twisted rituals, harnessing its dark power to fuel their sinister deeds. The more they learned about the cult, the more they realized the extent of the danger they were facing. The Shadow King was a being of pure malevolence, a force of darkness that sought to consume all in its path. And the cursed camera was its vessel, a gateway through which it could exert its influence upon the mortal realm. Determined to put an end to the hauntings once and for all, Alex and Emily set out to uncover the truth behind the cult's rituals. They scoured ancient texts and obscure manuscripts, searching for any clue that might lead them to the heart of the darkness that had taken hold of the camera. But the more they searched, the more elusive the truth became. The cult had covered its tracks well, leaving behind only cryptic clues and obscure symbols that seemed to mock their efforts. They struggled to maintain their sanity as the camera's malevolent influence grew stronger, each photograph capturing scenes of unspeakable horror that threatened to consume them whole. As they delved deeper into the darkness, Alex and Emily found themselves haunted by visions of the past. They saw the cult's twisted rituals play out before their eyes, each image more grotesque than the last. They knew they were walking a dangerous path, playing with forces beyond their comprehension. But they pressed on, driven by a sense of duty to stop the Shadow King's reign of terror once and for all. They knew that the key to stopping the hauntings lay in uncovering the truth behind the cult's rituals, no matter the cost. As they pieced together the puzzle, Alex and Emily found themselves drawn deeper into the darkness that surrounded the cursed camera. They knew that they were treading on dangerous ground, playing with forces beyond their comprehension. But they were determined to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Little did they know, the true horror lay not in the images captured by the camera, but in the darkness that lurked within the human heart. And as they stared into the abyss, they realized with a sinking feeling that they were powerless to escape its grasp. Chapter 8. Descent into Madness. The walls of Alex's apartment felt like they were closing in on him, suffocating him with their oppressive presence. He paced back and forth, his mind a whirlwind of paranoia and fear. Every shadow seemed to conceal unseen eyes, every creak of the floorboards sending a jolt of adrenaline coursing through his veins. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, that the darkness from the photographs was closing in on him. Emily watched him from across the room, her heart aching with concern. She had never seen Alex like this, his usually sharp mind now clouded by delusions and hallucinations. She tried to reach out to him, to offer him comfort and support, but he pushed her away, lost in the grip of his own madness. "Alex, please," she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. "You need to snap out of it. This isn't real." But Alex shook his head, his eyes wild with terror. "You don't understand, Emily. It's everywhere. I can't escape it." Emily felt a pang of helplessness wash over her as she watched Alex descend further into madness. She knew that she couldn't save him alone, that they needed to find a way to break free from the camera's curse before it consumed them both. But even as she tried to hold on to her sanity, Emily felt the darkness creeping in around her. She began to see things, shadowy figures lurking in the corners of her vision, whispers echoing in the empty spaces of the room. She tried to convince herself that it was all just a product of her imagination. But deep down, she knew the truth: the camera's curse was real, and it was slowly driving them both insane. As the days turned into weeks, Alex's mental state continued to deteriorate, his grip on reality slipping further and further away. He would spend hours locked away in his room, muttering to himself incoherently, lost in a world of his own making. Emily tried to support him as best she could, but she could feel herself being pulled down into the darkness alongside him. She knew that they were running out of time, that they needed to find a way to break free from the camera's curse before it was too late. But with each passing day, the darkness seemed to grow stronger, its grip on their minds tightening with each passing moment. As they teetered on the brink of madness, Alex and Emily knew that they were facing the fight of their lives. They would need to summon every ounce of strength and courage they possessed if they hoped to break free from the camera's curse and emerge from the darkness unscathed. But with each passing moment, the shadows seemed to close in around them, threatening to consume them whole. Chapter 9. Race Against Time. Time seemed to slip through Alex and Emily's fingers, like grains of sand, as they raced against the encroaching darkness that threatened to consume them. Their minds were a whirlwind of fear and desperation as they searched frantically for a way to break free from the camera's curse before it was too late. They scoured ancient texts and obscure manuscripts, seeking any shred of information that might help them unravel the mystery of the cursed camera. But the answers remained elusive, hidden behind layers of cryptic symbols and arcane rituals. As they delved deeper into the darkness, Alex and Emily could feel the malevolent entity that lurked within the camera's lens, drawing closer, its presence palpable in every shadowy corner of their minds. They knew that they were running out of time, that they needed to find a way to banish the entity from the mortal realm before it claimed them as its next victims. With each passing moment, the darkness seemed to grow stronger, its grip on their minds tightening with each passing moment. They could feel themselves slipping further and further into madness, their thoughts consumed by visions of horror and despair. But still, they pressed on, driven by a desperate need to break free from the camera's curse and reclaim their sanity. They knew that they couldn't do it alone, that they needed to confront the malevolent entity head-on if they hoped to stand a chance of defeating it. Armed with nothing but their wits and determination, Alex and Emily ventured into the heart of the darkness, their hearts pounding in their chests as they prepared to face the ultimate evil that lurked within the cursed camera. They found themselves standing in a dimly lit chamber, the air heavy with the stench of decay. At the center of the room stood the camera, its lens gleaming with an otherworldly light. And there, in the shadows, lurked the malevolent entity that had haunted their nightmares for so long. With a sense of grim determination, Alex and Emily stepped forward, their eyes locked on the entity before them. They knew that this was their only chance, their final opportunity to banish the darkness from their lives once and for all. As they confronted the entity, a fierce battle ensued, the air crackling with energy as light clashed with darkness. But despite the odds stacked against them, Alex and Emily refused to back down, drawing strength from each other as they fought to reclaim their freedom. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the entity was vanquished, its malevolent presence dissipating into the ether. With a sense of relief washing over them, Alex and Emily knew that they had emerged victorious, that they had finally broken free from the camera's curse. As they stood amidst the ruins of their ordeal, Alex and Emily knew that their journey was far from over. But they also knew that they had faced their fears head-on and emerged stronger for it. And as they looked towards the future, they knew that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together, united in their determination to never let the darkness win again. Chapter 10. Final Showdown. The air crackled with tension as Alex and Emily stood face to face with the malevolent entity that had haunted their nightmares for so long. Its presence loomed over them like a dark cloud, its eyes gleaming with malice as it prepared to strike. But Alex and Emily refused to back down, drawing strength from each other as they prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. With a sense of grim determination, they squared their shoulders and stepped forward, their eyes locked on the entity before them. They knew that this was their final showdown, their last chance to break free from the curse that had plagued them for so long. The entity lunged forward with a deafening roar, its dark tendrils reaching out to ensnare them. But Alex and Emily were ready, dodging and weaving with lightning-fast reflexes as they fought to stay one step ahead of their foe. With every blow they struck, the entity seemed to grow stronger, its dark energy pulsing with renewed vigor. But Alex and Emily refused to give up, pushing themselves to their limits as they poured every ounce of strength and determination into their fight. As the battle raged on, the walls of the chamber trembled with the force of their struggle, cracks forming in the ancient stone as the very fabric of reality threatened to unravel. But still, Alex and Emily pressed on, fueled by sheer determination and courage as they fought to save themselves and others from the entity's grasp. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the tide of battle turned. With a final, desperate surge of energy, Alex and Emily unleashed everything they had, their combined power striking the entity with the force of 1,000 suns. With a deafening roar, the entity faltered, its form flickering and fading like a dying flame. And then, with one final desperate cry, it vanished into the ether, leaving nothing behind but a lingering sense of triumph. As the dust settled, and the echoes of their battle faded into silence, Alex and Emily collapsed to the ground, exhausted but victorious. They had done it. They had broken the curse and destroyed the camera, sealing the entity's fate once and for all. As they caught their breath, a sense of relief washed over them, mingled with a newfound sense of freedom. They had faced their greatest fears and emerged stronger for it, united in their victory over the darkness that had threatened to consume them. And as they looked towards the future, they knew that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together, armed with the knowledge that they were stronger than they had ever imagined. For they had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious, proving that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Chapter 11. Closure. The aftermath of their harrowing ordeal left Alex and Emily physically and emotionally drained, but as they emerged from the darkness, they found themselves forever changed, yet stronger for having faced their fears together. Sitting together in Alex's apartment, they reflected on the journey they had undertaken, the trials they had faced, and the bonds they had forged in the crucible of their shared struggle. The events of the past weeks seemed like a distant nightmare, a blur of terror and uncertainty that had tested their limits and pushed them to the brink of despair. But through it all, they had stood by each other's side, drawing strength from each other's courage and determination. They had faced their greatest fears and emerged victorious, proving that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. As they talked, memories of their journey flooded back: the haunted photographs, the sinister entity lurking in the shadows, the desperate battles fought in the darkness. But amidst the chaos and terror, there had also been moments of triumph and solidarity. Moments when they had come together as a team to confront the darkness and emerge stronger for it. And now, as they sat together in the quiet calm of Alex's apartment, they found solace in knowing that they had prevented the camera's evil from spreading further. They had faced the darkness head-on and emerged victorious, banishing the malevolent entity from the mortal realm and sealing its fate once and for all. But even as they found closure in knowing that they had triumphed over the darkness, they knew that their journey was far from over. They had been forever changed by their ordeal, their minds scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. But they also knew that they had emerged stronger for it, united in their shared experience and bonded by the ties of friendship and camaraderie. As they looked towards the future, Alex and Emily knew that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together, armed with the knowledge that they were stronger than they had ever imagined. For they had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious, proving that even in the darkest of times, there is always light to guide the way. Chapter 12. Epilogue. The once bustling antique shop now stood silent and abandoned, its windows boarded up and its doors chained shut. The cursed camera, the source of so much terror and despair, lay locked away in a vault deep beneath the ground, never to be used again. Its dark power had been sealed away, its malevolent influence banished from the mortal realm for eternity. As for Alex and Emily, they continued their work as paranormal investigators, their resolve hardened by their experiences and their determination unwavering in the face of the lurking darkness that threatened to engulf the world. They traveled far and wide, seeking out the forgotten corners of the earth, where the supernatural still held sway. They faced ghosts and ghouls, demons and monsters, their courage undiminished by the horrors they encountered. But amidst the darkness, there was also light moments of triumph and victory that served as beacons of hope in a world shrouded in shadow. They helped those in need, offering comfort and solace to the haunted and the lost. And through it all, they remained steadfast in their commitment to each other, drawing strength from their bond and facing every challenge as a team. Together, they stood against the forces of darkness, their spirits unbroken and their hearts filled with hope. As they looked towards the future, Alex and Emily knew that their journey was far from over. There would always be more mysteries to unravel, more battles to fight, more darkness to confront. But they also knew that as long as they stood together, they would never be truly alone. For in the end, it was their friendship that had seen them through the darkest of times, their courage that had banished the shadows from their lives. And as they walked, hand in hand, into the unknown, they knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together, united in their determination to never let the darkness win again.